All right, everybody, we're back. I'm back here with Chad Munitz. Chad, you're back in the bunker, Cincinnati.
In the bunker.
Things are still happening in the Ohio.
They are avoiding the snow, but happening. Hopefully,
Nice.
the last snow of the season.
Well, I don't know. We still have April, man, which is cool because then the next winter is only 6 months away. Yeah. So it's great. Anyways, hey, we're back for another episode of Brigadoon Radio. We're going to talk about some commerce, culture, and what we're reading, what's happening. Chad, I thought we'd go with first the GQ 50. GQ this week came out with a list of, they're calling it the holy grails of fashion. Going through the list, I myself have 2 pieces I bought throughout my lifetime, maybe 3, I can't remember. How about you? Any of the 50 do you have in your closet ever in your life?
Not even, maybe the jean jacket from Levi's. It's about as close as I get.
Dude, I guess I would say 4. So yeah, this article, they're saying the 50 holy grails of modern menswear. Men's fashion is big and exciting now as ever been. These are the 50 best looks you have. And yeah, it's quite aggressive. I think you're spot on. The pieces, like the Gucci loafers, the jean jacket. I was trying to remember. They also have the Air Jordans on there, which is such an iconic shoe. I feel like every kid bought it, but I feel like I bought it, but I can't remember if I actually bought it. But it's like been such a presence in my life that I feel like I've owned a pair of Air Jordans.
I'm sure you did. I have not ever owned.
That sounded very condescending. But it's like that shoe, everybody knows that shoe, that classic original red, white, and black shoe. It was such it was such an explosion, and it's still relevant today, which is it's just mind-boggling.
It is, yeah, what he did and Nike did to transform the sneaker industry is amazing with that.
They're saying the Air Jordan 1 High Chicago. This shoe's from 1985. I mean, it is like absolutely mind-boggling. Still delivers today. The jean. We'll obviously put a link to this. The jean jacket's pretty iconic. I think we've all had a classic, Levi jean jacket. I thought was also interesting. Some of these pieces, I wouldn't say I own, but they've kind of influenced my style. Like I've actually been going through this phase of kind of chore coats. Kind of vintage, old school French chore coats. Which makes me feel good since I have a, classic white collar job. I feel like, I'm doing something industrial, but I think that's what's interesting about these pieces. They've influenced other pieces of fashion, even though you may not own these exact pieces. You can see how they've seeped into what people are wearing.
I think they're spot on. There's never been a better time in men's fashion. It's actually, if I was in my youth, was pretty exciting. It's a great time to be into fashion and what's happening in the cutting edge of stuff. I think for the bulk of America, it was Brooks Brothers, and that was the cutting edge, and everybody looked the same, and the fashion style was all directed towards women. And now I think men and women are getting a lot more. It's great. It's actually on my watch list.
Go ahead.
I bought Peacock. I'm jumping ahead till the end segment, but
Peacock, oh my God!
I got
what the hell is Peacock?
to watch the Olympics.
Nice,
which was not a great viewing experience. The Peacock viewing for the Olympics coverage, but since we had it, we're watching the latest episode of Project Runway.
Oh yeah, wow!
Still holds up. It's great, and there's a lot of great fashion out there.
I think I've always been blown away by Project Runway. How these people take cloth and sew it into stuff, and I find it absolutely mesmerizing. They're super talented. That's cool that show still exists. I had no idea it was on the Peacock. Where is the Peacock? Is it just out there? Is it in the cloud, so to speak?
Out there in the cloud, the metaverse.
Why do you think it's like? Why do you think men's fashion is better now, or is that just because people are taking it more seriously? Is it the internet? We're just exposed to more stuff. Is there better quality?
A little bit of everything. I think, at the end of the day, we've talked about this in other episodes. Marketing is key, and men have just as much dispendable income as women. And I think it's interesting to stand out, to have your individual style.
Do you think women are actually hoping men dress better too? Like, is that part of it as well?
I definitely think that's the case.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, we'll put that out there. I think it was interesting. Yeah, some of these pieces are very interesting. You could see, like, if you had a certain career, how you could wear this. You could probably wear all 50 of these pieces. Probably if you played for the NBA, for the Detroit Pistons. But what's interesting is how, like I said, other pieces have kind of seeped in. I remember that there's that great line from Devil's Wear Prada, and the character's kind of mocking the head designer, and she kind of walks it through like, you're making fun of this, but this decision on this belt is going to impact, clothes you're going to see down the line in 5 or 6 years. And I think what GQ's tried to do here is really say, yeah, this may be at the forefront, but this stuff is really influencing what we're going to be wearing for the next few years.
I think that's the key to almost all the kind of fashion design and commerce of, the stuff that's pushing out to the edge, the stuff that's the most advanced. Pieces of that fall out and come to, the everyday life or the ready to wear style. It's not just what you see on the runway. It's taking pieces of that you can adopt to your own style.
Love it. Good advice. You should have a fashion blog. You probably do under a pseudonym that we don't know about. All right, let's go to our next topic. Post-industrial parks. If anybody can read this, I will take them to a post-industrial park. Listen, I grew up in the industrial Midwest. I actually, on my gallery wall here, I actually have a painting of like factories. Like I'm actually kind of like love factories, love industry, love big, public works. But this idea of post-industrial parks, obviously with the High Line in New York, it's kind of, there's been an explosion. You're in the space, you're a designer, you're building the world of the future. What are your thoughts on this?
All great areas start with public space. It's the ground. Anything that is great in the built environment starts with great public space, and reclaiming areas to create more good public space helps any neighborhood become a great community. So it's amazing it's done. One of the articles that you'll post that we read through, I disagree with a little bit of, I think everyone deserves a great public space, that there shouldn't be anything wrong with overspending money to create great civic and public space.
Yeah.
Recapturing areas for green space is essential to any great community, be it an urban area or rural areas of having public space out there available.
Yeah, in this article, go ahead.
No, go.
No, in the article we're referencing, it's we'll put it up. It's part of the Bloomberg City Lab. They go through a report, Parks for Profit, and the writer of the report is quite critical, saying that these essentially private parks that are paid for by individuals really is doing a disservice. They're creating a lot of attention, and it would be better served if there was more of a public park as opposed to a private park. I don't know. It's an interesting debate. I mean, I think you probably have to have somebody come in there and put this together. I mean, if the city's not going to do it, if the public works can't do it, why can't we have private folks come in here and prop up a park?
Yeah, as long as it's open to anyone, which is the idea of great civic and public space. I don't care who pays for it. It's important to be part of a community, and it's important that people feel that they deserve the best of that. One of my previous jobs was doing urban redevelopment in the urban core of Cincinnati, and we redid a park right smack in the middle of the urban core called Washington Park. And I remember at the beginning when we were talking about doing it, there were members of the community who literally felt they didn't deserve something that nice. That's
wow.
The nice parks that get done in the suburbs. We don't deserve to spend this money. And we're like, no, everyone deserves great public space and built with the greatest and nicest materials. So I think it's important, and it's probably the best way to revitalize a city is to take those old areas and put them back to use. I mean, we're never going to take old industrial areas and convert them all back to old industrial use. And things are just much more efficient in terms of how things sprawl out and lay out for manufacturing today. They're not going to build something where they manufacture over 10 stories instead of one large single floor, but to take those areas and reclaim them for great urban use is important.
It does seem that there is, I mean, I know you're much more in the space, but just from the outside looking in, it does seem any kind of development now, almost from the start, there's like, what's the green component here? I'm not talking about environmental stuff, but I'm saying like, what's the park space? What are the trees? What's the indoor, outdoor options for the users of this building? That seems to be at the forefront. Like, I don't think you could build anything without, where are the trees going to go?
You literally need to start of where that public space. Once you leave the road and hit the curb, what's the sidewalk look like? You got to start from that outside and build in. If not, just that internal built environment doesn't matter unless you get good outside public space.
It's pretty wild where I am in Old Town Alexandria. They've actually been reclaiming more and more of the waterfront along the river. And for a long time, it was actually very industrial. There were warehouses, even 10 years ago, right on the river. And they were still shipping in commerce. And it's pretty wild. They've transfixed it. They've kept some of the piers and some of the industrial, post-industrial kind of activities, but they've turned them into parks. And lo and behold, people like it. I mean, there's they just show up. There's just something about being close to water, being in nature, even if you are in like a major urban core, just that connection to nature, it seems to make the world a difference.
Reclaiming waterfronts is as hard as reclaiming old industrial sites in urban cities. Almost all cities had their industrial and commerce on the water because that was, two reasons. They needed the water to help run the function, but it was also the main shipping. That's how they got commerce out of the cities. And here in Cincinnati with our riverfront, or in Cleveland in Ohio at the lake, down to you on the Potomac, was cut off from the rest of the city. It was where infrastructure just got cut off. That's where everything was. To be able to reclaim that and have that flow back into the core of the city is so important, but it is hard to do because usually they're just completely cut off from the rest of the function of the neighborhood.
I think I just understood, and maybe you can talk about this. Like, thinking about like Cleveland, Detroit, Cincinnati, all water, all ports. Like, looking at them now, you're like, how is it even possible that this much industry is on the river? Whereas we go to Chicago, they have an amazing waterfront, but they have a different infrastructure. Chicago, I believe, because they went with the train, they could give up the waterfront. They wouldn't, but they could give up the waterfront easier 10, 20, like 50 years ago. Whereas the cities we're talking about were still committed to the waterfront. That was like their commercial engine.
You nailed it. That's exactly what happened. That's how Chicago really surpassed Cincinnati, Cleveland, those other cities that were betting on the water and the steamboats to keep things moving along. And they bet on rail.
So what is the what is the future for this? I mean, are you seeing more private individuals come forth and say, hey, I'd like to build a park? Or are you seeing cities reach out to folks? What's the future of this?
I think you're going to see more and more private people invest in it. I think we don't need to get into the entire discussion of the enormous wealth in this country and in this world, but folks are constantly looking of ways to deploy their wealth, and creating urban areas is a great way to do it. I think you're going to start seeing more and more incentives for people to get tax credits, tax incentives to start building public space.
From the federal level, or even state and local, or a combination?
I think a combination of all three, of state, local, and federal level, to try to get those things done. And it gets back to, you got to still do it the right way. It is very expensive to create great urban areas, urban park and civic spaces. Who's doing
a good job? Like, I mean, like a second or third tier city, or where you see some interesting stuff happening that we should all pay attention to?
Well, I'll plug Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's done an amazing job. And virtually
that was such a softball.
They laid it up for me.
But no, seriously, Cincinnati is, talk about what you're doing in Cincinnati, and then maybe talk about another city you've been kind of monitoring.
So Cincinnati really started with the private side of that, with this not-for-profit 3CDC, which is funded by the great corporate citizens in Cincinnati. So Procter, Macy's, Kroger, Fifth Third, Western Southern, all put up their money to support urban redevelopment. And it was almost completely privately done. It's a private not-for-profit. And their whole goal and their return on their investment was a better area, which in turn gets them more employees that want to come and live and work in the city. So I think they're really a model of how to do it, and how the private sector can step up and fund these things with not looking strictly for a dollar for dollar monetary return on their investment, but the return is what it means overall to the company.
But as we talked to them, the last time we chatted, just like the return or just the quality of life issues, like being able to live in a more walkable city. I don't know. There's something about it. Like, one of my favorite activities is to get out of the house and, do a little walkabout, 3-4 miles around my little neighborhood. And it's great. You discover different things. You can kind of see what's happening, and it just makes the city more accessible. but you want to be able to walk in a place that's safe, where you're not,
Right.
battling cars and buses and trucks. So that kind of combination of shared space, super important.
Agreed. And you mentioned the High Line, but New York City really, for as large of a city as has been such a dramatic change in terms of focusing on urban parks. I mean, they started off originally with Central Park, but then, over the last century, I think they got away from it and then coming back to it in the last probably 20 years of creating urban parks and then also taking advantage of their waterfront there, which was really cut off from development.
Yeah, I mean, I feel very fortunate to live in, DC. I mean, obviously, it's a very unique city in the sense it's, capped in terms of space, and there may be sprawl issues in the suburbs, but just having all that green walking space and just making it a priority, accessing the riverfront, really interesting. I don't know if you had a chance to read about these two guys in LA, but they walked 50 miles in Los Angeles, and they're saying, hey man, LA is a walkable city, which is such a crazy concept that it deserves an article in the LA Times. But there's something valuable about getting out, walking around.
It is, and I know you want to talk about transformation of office, but it all really works together in terms of what the new office environment is going to be and what everyone's looking for in terms of their lifestyle. Getting out into the world is important. I think we've all realized that from being cooped up with COVID. And as we were working from home and working remotely, multiple times a day, I'd just go out and walk around the block. I would never do that sitting in my office building. I'd go out in the middle of the day and take a walkabout.
Well, yeah, we've had that, we'll do a link to it, but Florence Williams was kind enough to speak to the Brigadoon crew a few months ago. And, she wrote a book about, creativity and just being in nature, and even talking about like what they do. They have this idea in Japan of forest baths, and, there's doctors that are, prescribing, listen, get out in nature, go for a walk, be around trees, be around water, be around birds, and just the positive impact it has on humans. So that's a good transition to our next topic. You're going to have to defend office spaces and why they are so horrible. Why does nobody want to go back to the office? Can you defend it? I'll say the stat we have here is this is from a year ago, but Accenture found that 83% of workers surveyed preferred a hybrid model. They want to have some kind of hybrid, situation, work remotely. 100% of these workers don't want to work on Friday, which is interesting. So we're really coming down to a 4-day work week. But why is there such reluctance, or is that being overplayed? I don't know. Is the office space dead, or is it alive, or is it gonna just an opportunity to kind of pivot and change?
I think it's going to pivot and change. I think the bigger change is how companies manage their people than what the physical office space is. I think what you're noticing and what we're finding out is what we've talked about for the whole first part of this episode here is people want to be able to get out, to move around, to be in nature. It was almost like when we were in school and it would be a nice day. It'd be pretty exciting. The teacher said, let's go out in the front lawn and have our class today. That was awesome. We still learned.
Was the best. Yeah.
But you got outside of those four walls of the classroom. So I think what you're going to see is the way you manage people and you get your work done change. And it doesn't have to be sitting in an office and collaborating that way. I don't know that it's going to completely go to remote, but having that flexibility to meet off site, meet at a coffee shop, meet in the park, go to the office when you need to do work is amazing. And then the whole part of just gaining back more time in your life, getting that separation of work and your life is important. Figuring out how to do that of when you're in the office and not. I actually found myself, I think the majority of people, and there's some studies, you end up spending more time working and you don't realize it when you're not just sitting in the office. You're checking stuff in the evening, you're checking stuff when you first get up, but you're not so rigid of set down in that office space or in your cubicle and pounding things out.
Well, in some ways, there's so many distractions and temptations, and there's different people, and they've got different priorities, and it's all sometimes the office space is not the best place to do like deep dive or deep thought work, and different formats or different situations. Commerce and business can take place in different places. As you talk about, like a coffee, even this idea of walking meetings. I think you're going to see more of that, right? The ability to get out and do a walk and talk. But who's leading this? Is it I don't want to castigate our younger viewers, or is this a top-down thing? Is it coming from the bottom up?
No,
Is it just a natural progression?
It is bottom up.
Bottom up, huh?
It is bottom up, and you got to pay attention to that, because that's the employees that you want to get. That's the employees you want to keep and grow, and it's coming from the bottom up. It's going to be something more and more where they're just going to demand that.
Yeah, I'm thinking too. Like, everybody's talking about the end of the 5-day work week, but I think you might see like a 14-day work week, right? Where you just jam in, go hard for 2 weeks, and take 3 or 4 days off, or a week. Why does it have to be a 5-day work week? Like, why can't you work every day? It's interesting.
I agree. You're going to see that blurred more and more. I mean, I think Netflix is the one that was kind of revolutionary in terms of how big they were and did it, where they got rid of vacations. You can take vacation whenever you want. It's just, you have an assignment. This is your job responsibilities. And as long as you're keeping up and doing a good job, you can be in the office, you can be on the beach, you can work remote, you can work at home. It's however you see fit to get your work done. And I think you're going to see more and more of that. So if you need to unplug and relax for a couple of days, and then you go hard for 10 days straight, you're still getting what needs to be done.
Well, it does seem, I mean, obviously the office space was set up around factories, kind of like the 5-day work week, church on Sunday. So, and that's all changed. Like, we're clearly in a post-industrial, not only for parks, but also post-industrial office space. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. What's interesting, I think about, is you have the workspace, but how that flows into kind of social stuff, kids sporting events, concerts, professional sports. I mean, the NFL used to be only on Sunday. Now you can get games, 4 days a week. And I'm sure they would love to go 5 or 6 days a week. So I don't know. It's just all becoming blended, I mean, that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to continue to change, and I think it'll change drastically. That quickly, technology is pushing things further and further, and more every year, more and more people are comfortable using that technology to accomplish things.
Yeah. I mean, I think the sprint thing is going to be super interesting. Especially as somebody who doesn't have children, the ability to kind of really hunker in, focus on stuff. And just working remote, like, hey, I want to work in, Nashville for 3 days, go really hard, come back and see the family. I don't know. Maybe that's going to be the next evolution. I'm sure there's some entrepreneur out there who's creating some kind of business model where, it's a better hotel, it's a better Airbnb experience, but you have like office space and other activities.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is, at the end of the day, you're only as good as your employees. I mean, you need good employees to work for you. And so it's going to be driven to keep those employees happy. And it's not a reality anymore where you start with the company and end there 40 years later. So you're going to constantly go around to feel what is the best environment for you to have fun, work, be appreciated, and be relaxed.
Yeah. I'm thinking about that great movie, You, Me, and Dupree with Owen Wilson. And I don't know if you recall that movie, but there's a great scene where he asks about vacation policy, namely Arbor Day, to get Arbor Day off. And it's kind of a joke, but that is kind of where we are too. Like, what is the health and wellness policy? What is the lifestyle? I don't know. What is the right term? Like, what is the lifestyle policy? What's the buzzy phrase? What does Netflix say? Like, is there a buzzy phrase around this kind of?
I don't know.
Is it lifestyle policy? I'm sure there's going to be a forthcoming book about, managing for lifestyle or something like that.
Sounds like your next book you need to write.
That does sound good. Like, it does. There's something there. There's something, because it's not just vacation. It's not just, and it also this idea of kind of lifelong learning, if you want to be an employee for 10 years, what are the skills are going to help you learn? What other opportunities are you going to allow me to get out and go back to school possibly? I don't know. We'll leave that for the next episode. Should we go to our next topic?
Sounds great.
Endurance, the ship, Shackleton ship discovered. What do you think? You excited? I mean, I was watching Bill Maher last night. He was kind of making fun of it. And he's like, oh, it sank in the Antarctic, and you found it in the Arctic. How hard was that? So he was, but I think it's pretty amazing. What do you think?
I wasn't even aware of it until you brought it up.
I'm probably a bit more obsessed with the North. I love ice. I was always Jack London, Call of the Wild. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something amazing about taking a wooden ship to the top of the world, surrounded by ice. But I don't know. You know the story, obviously.
I know the story.
You don't find it that compelling?
So have they been looking for it? Did
they've
stumble upon it?
No, they've been looking for it. It's quite far down. It's not as deep as Titanic, but it's quite far down. Okay, so not an explorer.
Nothing.
Endurance, not impressed. So you're in the Bill Maher camp. I love it. Okay.
I am in the Bill Maher camp.
You're like, wow, they found a sunken ship in the ocean. Color me surprised.
A lot of them out there.
Okay, cool. Well, I budgeted 20 minutes for this section, so now that we've blown that out, we got to stretch. Or we can go to our favorite subject, unless you got something else you want to bring up.
That's good. Go on.
What we're reading and writing. Reading and watching. And writing. You've kind of already teased it out. You want to go first?
I'll go first on a couple things. Probably a lot.
A couple things. Oh my gosh.
A lot of things.
No wonder you sped through endurance. You're like
no interest in.
This is why you sped through endurance. You're like, I'm going to talk for 20 minutes about some rare pop culture. All right, perfect. Buckle in, folks. It's about to get boring. I mean, exciting.
Well, I'm sure you were just like I was unaware of your sinking ship.
The world sinking ship. This is okay. Jesus. I'm going to cancel that membership to the Explorers Club for you.
The Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer dropped this week.
Okay. No idea. Exactly. No idea. Totally missed it.
It's very exciting news. Disney Plus limited series, Obi-Wan Kenobi, taking place in between episode 3 and episode 4. You're going to find out what Obi-Wan was doing all those years in the desert, Tatooine. Who is
Obi-Wan Kenobi in this episodic Disney Plus TV show?
Ewan McGregor. So bring him back, who played him in the first 3 episodes.
The train spotter guy?
1, 2, 3, train spotting. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Playing him. Very excited. So excited. I listened to almost a 2-hour podcast on the Ringerverse, the House of R, just talking about a 1-minute trailer that dropped. So it's big news in Star Wars nerd fandom out there. That I think May 25th is when Obi-Wan Kenobi starts.
Yeah, May 25th. I'm looking at it now. John Williams, theme music composer. Wow, sounds amazing. Can't wait to hear more about it.
So I'm just watching a trailer on repeat this week. That was my big news.
Wow. Okay.
Comic book drop this week also. Mentioned some comic books last week. This
just
one my daughter's excited about.
Just one comic book?
Spider-Gwen. I grabbed it from my daughter. Issue 1.
Nice.
Brand new series.
Pink spider action.
So Spider-Gwen in the Spider-Verse.
Is that Gwen Stefani?
It is not.
Okay.
So my daughter's pretty excited. It starts with issue 1, so she can actually start a comic book collection from the first drop.
That's amazing.
She goes to collect that. And another podcast that's been great and finally back on track. My favorite podcast besides this, TheRewatchables.
TheRewatchables? Okay. You're down. You're like a Ringer fanboy.
I am a Ringer fanboy for a couple of things. The Rewatchables had a terrible February. I think they called it Fucked Up Family February.
Okay.
So they did a bunch of movies I could care less about, but they're back this month with the original Batman from Tim Burton, 1989. So they're going to
extend horrible Fucked Up February into March.
One more.
I've watched, you recommended a few of those.
You're not interested in.
I've listened to, obviously I'm a huge Heat fan, so, I struggled through that. Ice Storm, Kramer versus Kramer, Parenthood. My gosh, man. Ordinary People.
February was rough.
Casino, that sounds good for January. Miracle. Maybe I'll check that out. I don't know. It's just, my feeling about Bill Simmons. But anyways, I'm glad you're keeping the Ringer empire going. Who owns them now? Are they part of Spotify?
They're Spotify, yeah.
They're part of the Joe Rogan empire as well? Or?
Yes.
Have you noticed a difference from them going to Spotify from being independent?
I haven't noticed a difference in their content. You know, what is odd, and I'd be fine with taking some advertising in this podcast, bring our production value up.
Yeah.
But they break a lot of times on the Spotify podcast, they'll break for a commercial and the commercial won't run. They'll be like, oh, we'll take a break. We'll come right back after this.
I've seen that on pods. Like, what's the story behind it? They didn't fill the space, or?
I don't know. It seems so bizarre.
Do you have a premium subscription for Spotify?
I don't.
So I listen to a lot of pods on the Google Pod Player, and that happens sometimes. Or some don't have ads. I don't know. Maybe they're prepping for that, or for different markets, or it would seem to me they would fill up those spaces. The worst are the ads where I don't know, they kind of sneak in there and they start reading or whatever. But I guess it's part of the necessary evil of advertising. That's why we're so staunch capitalists. We don't take advertising on this program. But I guess I
listened to Conan O'Brien's Needs a Friend podcast, which actually is not a good podcast. And his staff makes fun of him because he reads all of his ads, does this little shtick during his ads, but he keeps plugging products that they don't pay for their ads anymore. He's like, they're not our advertisers. Oh, I love this bit got for this.
That's got to be a shtick, dude. The retention on those must be pretty high, obviously, when the person reads it, because you can't, you don't tell the difference. All right.
What are you into?
So what I'm into is no, you're educating me, man. This is great. I'm gonna watch TheRewatchables Casino, which is cool. So one of the things I'm a fanboy of is Monocle Magazine. They're actually celebrating 15 years, which is pretty hard. It just seems amazing. I don't know. Like, I actually thought they were on longer, but so they do 10 issues a year. They also do retail. They have these like fancy coffee shops. They do radio. The whole thing is just absolutely fantastic. Really enjoy it. And then a few times a year, they put out these like supplemental magazines. These are just dedicated to entrepreneurs. Very high quality. 100 ways to like improve your business, and they're great. They're little fun little magazines. They're really well organized, really well curated, and they're little vignettes, little profiles of entrepreneurs around the world doing cool stuff, and also high quality Omega advertising. So check out Monocle celebrating 15 years. But they have a 24-hour radio station. They've got 5 or 6 shows they do every day. One of my favorite pods that I listen to is called The Globalist, which is a good rundown of news around the world. And Monocle, check it out. Entrepreneurs.
Here's my hot take on Monocle. I think it is what George Magazine became.
Dude, I miss George so much, man. So you're saying you think George influenced Monocle?
Yes. I think it's the modern day George Magazine. It's the 2022.
Yeah, I could see that. Because it's actually, Burley, the editor, he spent time as a war journalist, and they actually cover diplomacy really well.
Yeah.
They interview a lot of ambassadors and diplomats, and they also have a whole section on military, which is kind of cool, like stuff that's being bought and toys to keep us safe in the West. They're doing some pretty cool stuff, and anybody who can spend time in Switzerland and Tokyo in the same week is somebody we probably should be friends with.
What are you listening to? I need some new music. What do you got you're listening to?
I don't know, man. I get some stuff. This sounds completely ridiculous, but so Pete Tong, who's a DJ out of the UK, if you listen to Radio 1, he does a weekly show, and I just put that in the background and got some good stuff. The song of the week is what did I screenshot you guys? Easy.
Yeah, you dropped a great hip hop artist.
What is this? What is this cat's name? Do you have it in front of you? I don't know. I can pull it up, but we'll do a link to it. But no, the Pete Tong show is super interesting. It's a little bit of electronic dance music. But what's cool is if you download the BBC Sounds app, you get all the BBC radio stations and their pods. It's a great app, and it's commercial free. And I don't know, it's kind of the Brits Yeah, it's a little more European, but you get some good kind of exposure to some kind of cool songs like this guy. And I don't know, I would check out the BBC Sounds app. It's a great tool, and you can get your British on.
Sounds great.
The BBC is an interesting brand. I mean, I think it's probably one of the more powerful media brands in the world. I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't know. They've got a different take, obviously. I don't know. The quality's high, and they've been doing it, I feel, for such a long time that the documentaries, I don't know. I've been watching so much. I don't know. I mean, I've been spending more. My mind space has been more in London than it has been anywhere else. That's why I don't know about Obi-Wan Kenobi and all this crazy stuff. Probably gonna lose my US.
British accent.
Yeah, he's Scottish, man, right? Yeah, I know that. I'm probably gonna lose my US passport, but that's for another story.
All right,
Chad. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you in 2 weeks. It goes by so fast.
That's amazing.
Are you ready to do this weekly, or you like the 2-week pattern?
2-week path.
Yeah.
Lets me discover more things that I can amaze you with.
You're always amazing me, which is great. All right, everybody. We'll be back in 2 weeks. That'll be March, I don't even know, 1926, something like that, which is pretty crazy.
I gotta give a shout out to my wife for her birthday.
When's her birthday?
Monday. The big 5-0.
Is it really? Fantastic. Should we, are you going to reveal her name, or do you want to have a nickname for her? Or?
Michelle Lightfoot. I'll throw it all out there. We'll see if anyone watches and reaches out to her. Michelle
Where
Lightfoot.
Can they Venmo gifts to her, or cash, or Bitcoin, or send her Satoshis, or?
Nah, she's old school. She wants snail mail, probably.
She wants some mail?
Yeah.
Big 5-0, man. That's serious. How is she handling the 5-0? Is she cool with it? Or?
That's why I wanted to throw it out there.
Okay. Michelle, it's not that bad. It's great. But it's a serious number. It's pretty funny. But it's not that bad.
Got another year.
She's still in the game, so it's good.
Yeah.
You have another year?
9 months.
Yeah. Very cool. We'll have to think about what gift I can inflict on you to ruin your life. All right, everybody. Chad, good to see you, man.